address topical issues that made headlines and are still trending in the media. On this platform, we engage seasoned journalists who give us precise and in-depth analysis on news events as they affect our society. I am Samuel Akpan. Today on Press Talk, I have seasoned and veteran journalists in the studio. And to start with is Mr. Dan Atai. Mr. Atai, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mr. Samuel Akpan.
Okay, I also have a beautiful lady too in the house, and she's Uchechi Lemuwa.
Thanks for having me in the house.
Okay, we'll go straight to the issues making the headline. And we'll start with, we'll begin with the president slashing ministers and foreign trips and extra codes. That is for ministers and other government officials. Now, President Buhari has reduced the number and duration of foreign trips for ministers and other categories of government officials in a move described as cost-saving measure to achieve fiscal prudence. The president also removed traveling financial benefits known as extra code allowance and cut down the number of persons permitted to travel with the ministers and other government officials for official trip. Mr. Dan,
yeah,
I'll start with you.
All right.
This move taken by the president, do you think it is a way of streamlining governance in terms of cutting costs in governance?
Yeah, extra code have been major topical issues over the years, especially with the trend at which ministers and lawmakers do travel. And if you look at from the perspective of cost, it has been very overwhelming that taxpayers' money have been wrongly abused and used. And I think this goes to show that President Muhammadu Buhari is still focused on governance, not streamlining governance, but implementing effective governance, but streamlining costs. And I believe that with time, we are still going to look into the National Assembly itself if we continue with this focus, because like we have the Senate, some analysts, especially myself, is of the view that we may not need the House of Representatives for cost, since we have a state assembly. We have state assembly lawmakers, and we have at the lower tier of government, that is a local government level, we have councillors representing various wards. We may likely do away with the House of Rep and only face the Senate House. Coupled with this cost streamlining is a welcome development to save costs, like Mr. President said, and to also prevent, like he said, to expediency and prudence is also welcome in terms of public office holders, like the office of minister. A minister should not go to a trip with about 10 to 20 entourages. What are you doing with them? You understand? You have to bill for their hotels in dollars or in pounds. Probably you have to care for their movement over there. What are they going to do? So I think what the president have just done, streamlining the, stopping the extra code, is okay. It's very, very okay, and is in line with governance, completely in line with governance. Of recent, don't forget, the Italian government completely removed part of their parliament in terms of lawmaking representative, so that they can save money. And from the figure we heard, they saved about 1.5 million pounds, from just that. So, and I believe Mr. President have a focus of, in the nearest future, we will know what and what have been saved from this stoppage of extra code.
Okay, thank you very much. Ochechi, I'll come to you. Now, this is politics we're talking about. Do you think, or should we expect the government sanctioning errant ministers? Because the way Nigerians operate, we are not sure that it is all the ministers that want to implement Mr. President's new policy. Do you think we should expect government meting sanctions on the ministers who fail to adhere to this policy?
Actually, the president has the final say, I guess. So there is no way the president will give an order and then it is not observed. So according to the report, every trip must be approved through the SGF. So you see, it's no longer the ministers are no longer going to do it on their own. So they have to seek approval from the SGF before getting approval for any trip they want to embark on. So there is no even any way they can, go against the president's order.
Thank you. So, Mr. Dan, back to you. Should we start seeing ministers being fired by the presidency?
Yeah, like you said, what is erring when you err against some policies that are supposed to, give succor to the economy? It means you are a saboteur. You could be termed as a saboteur, and saboteurs are not needed in public office. The onus is on the SGF to tell us or to give approval to whichever minister wants to travel out. Once approval is not given to you and you make it deliberately, it means you have erred against our economic principle.
And then this approval must, if you have any trip you want to embark for the year, it must have been, you must have sought for the permission or for the approval at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Exactly. The president allowed for 1 quarter. In a quarter, you are not supposed to travel twice. That is the new policy that he just implemented, directed yesterday. So a minister is not supposed to travel in a quarter. A quarter have 4 months. So within 4 months, you are supposed to travel only once and not twice. So if you are seeking any other, perhaps if you want to go and all expense is going to be paid by you, and you have subordinates in the office that will take your place because you are a public figure.
Now you're talking about private trip.
Yeah, private trip.
Which all expenses will be paid by the minister.
Even at that, you have to still be allowed. You have to be permitted because you are not yourself. You are not serving yourself. You are serving the masses, and you are serving the entire ministry.
Of course,
the jurisdiction under your
accountable.
public. You should be accountable. And that is why I said expediency is required at any time from a public figure. So if you err, you will surely be dealt with.
Well, Mr. President is a no-nonsense man, so it's a welcome development by Nigerians.
Yeah, and I think it's the best thing the president has ever done since he became a president of Nigeria.
Okay, well, that's your opinion.
What about the SIP, the Social Investment Program? He has done a lot,
okay.
But we expect more, especially we are talking about poverty rate in the country. I wouldn't go into that now.
Yes, we'll get there. We'll get there. Mm-hmm. Okay, now moving on. It was a Black Wednesday in Onitsha, Anambra State. No fewer than 5 persons died in the Wednesday tanker fire in Onitsha, Anambra State. A woman and a child was confirmed dead, while 3 others were said to have died at different locations in the area. Now, 40 buildings and scores of shops were also touched in the disaster caused by the derailing of a tanker loaded with petrol. You watch clips, you saw pictures, gory pictures. Now, it is disturbing. Why is it disturbing? Because this thing is happening at regular intervals.
Yeah. You see our method of conveying PMS, premium motor spirit, and other fuel like gas is also disturbing. Before the colonial masters left, let me not call them colonial masters anymore. Like one analyst have said that no need of calling them colonial masters. However, we were using this pipe, this gas pipeline to transporting fuel and other PMS. But due to vandalism, we alternated for tanker to be conveying the fuels from one state to the other. And this is where we still have another big issues with tankers not only exploding on the way. We also have tankers sometimes destroying the coal tar on the roads and causing traffic jams in many areas in the Nigerian roads. Is a big factor. But then, if the NNPC deem it fit, that is the best way of conveying fuel and PMS, then I suggest that we have a first-hand medical aid attached. It is possible, since we don't have stationary aid workers, medical aid workers for what we call first aid. And our rescue team also should be properly looked into, because this very tanker explosion that happened in Anambra State, from what I gathered, it took up to 3 hours after the runway, after the tanker ran from the road into the houses and broke down there. It took 3 hours before the explosion. And within that 3 hours, we have surrounding environment like Koka, and we also even have Nnewi, where ordinarily even the Onitsha, particular Onitsha market, is supposed to have a fire service station there. Nothing like that was found. I learned they called Delta State. They called fire service from Delta, that is Delta, a nearby state, to intervene. So what are we talking about? If the entire market, like Onitsha market, do not have fire service station, and then they don't also have road safety commission,
it's disturbing, because
for
it's
rescue.
a very big market.
Very
It's supposed
big
to have
market.
a fire service, a fire station. In
It
the
is
market.
absurd. Not only absurd, is I don't think totally that the government of that state, to me, is not helping matters as regards the economic hub of that Anambra State. The economic hub is that market, and you see the disaster already. Something that originally could have been curtailed or minimized. So we have to do something about our rescue team, our first aid ambulances, and so on. And then we have to do something whether we will still go back to, transporting this fuel via the pipelines again. I think it will do us a great deal, since we have the NSCDC already mounting the various tankers pipelines. Petroleum pipelines.
Now, Uchichi, over to you. A mother, fathers and uncles, aunties left their house and they went to the market. But unfortunately, they couldn't return. Some badly hurt, some burned to death. Now, do you think a state of emergency should be declared on our fire service and also on rescue efforts generally in the country?
Well, the issue of tanker explosion has been reoccurring over the years. And sometime last year, July 2018, the Senate President, Dr. Saraki Bukola, right?
That's the former Senate President.
Yes, he came up with, he tried to look for a way to resolve tanker explosion in Nigeria. And then he was urging the police and the road safety to try and they make sure that the drivers and owners of these tankers comply to both federal and the state safety laws. Yeah. So you don't just let the driver go out there with the tanker without checking the tanker and also the driver himself.
Exactly.
Okay, in this case, they say the tanker lost control.
Yeah.
It's lost control. So had it been that the tanker was checked before the driver took off, they would have been able to
identify.
Yes, to know the situation of the tanker
just
before.
like the practice in the aviation industry.
Yeah, so this is an error. It's a human error that caused
avoidable errors.
Definitely, it could have been avoided if they are careful, if they are taking into consideration, trying to check the tanker, the driver, because some of these people they go on drug. They sometimes they don't even know themselves. You don't know the mental state of the driver, and you just allow the driver to take the tanker. So something has to be done about it. The federal road safety, the police, they have to ensure that the tankers and the owners of this, do you understand? They should be able to check them, let them make sure that they comply to the safety laws.
Exactly.
I think that's the best way to resolving these tanker explosion issues in Nigeria.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll be going next to the lingering labor and government meeting. But before then, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at that. We'll be looking at that.
This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seats and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on NightComSat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiries, Television Nigerian broadcast.
Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, this is Press Talk on Television Nigeria. Now, the organized labor and the federal government again failed to conclude negotiations over consequential adjustments in workers' salary as a result of the new minimum wage of 30,000 naira. Now, despite meeting for about 9 hours, as Labour said, that there was no declaration of strike yet. Mr. Tai, the lingering
labor issues between
the federal government and the organized labor.
Honestly, is an issue that by now ought to have been addressed and put to rest. But you see, the country itself, apart from the time now that this president came in and is trying to give palliative measures for the poor masses, especially among the civil servants, from time history, we have not been doing quite well with our labor force. The labor force in the country and the abject way we place them, the government in time past placed them, have been largely the reasons why we are not productive in this nation, and we still remain a consuming nation, regardless of whatsoever policy has been put in place to address productivity. Now, it will take time, because a nation is said to be productive when you depend largely on your GDP and your GDI. That is your gross domestic product and your gross domestic income. And you are naturally producing from your various industries. We don't have those things. And the president is trying to encourage the Nigerian labor, but you see, bureaucracy and factors of politics is beginning to emanate. And also statistics. What made Mr. President to have given the directive that 30,000 minimum wage should be paid across board? Economic team differed and said we cannot pay it across board. That certain cadre of the labor force should take 30,000 as increase, while the higher cadre of the labor force should be jettisoned. Well, if they want to make sacrifice, okay, but the directive from Mr. President is that the Nigerian labor force should be paid 30,000 minimum wage, and I do not see it compared to the lavishness in our political dimension. Apart from the political dimension, even our government, the various MDAs that you have, if the higher cadres wants to, how much do they collect? How much do they receive? If you don't treat the labor force
compared to what our politicians take home every month,
compared to what the politicians take home, especially those at the National Assembly, and what is very, very disheartening is that proactive measures among the economic team ought to have been arrived at before Mr. President issued that directive. This is the conflict now. Again, if you want to ask me, the Nigerian labor force, on the other hand, are also accomplices of what is happening to them, in the sense that the input, if you evaluate the Nigerian labor force input into national economy, you will discover that it is very, very minimal, and it is not encouraging into our GDI. However, as citizens and people are supposed to be employed, if they are employed, their welfare is supposed to be taken care of. And we are just talking about only minimum wage yet. We are not talking about other palliative measures like housing scheme, like a national insurance scheme and health insurance scheme for the Nigerian labor forces. We are only talking about take-home pay. And I don't think that any economy that so much wants its labor force and its economy to thrive on productivity should be lackadaisical, especially on what we call minimum wage. This is one of the least minimum wage that we have. I think we just have about 4 other African countries below us. And before now, we have been below them, you understand? And we need to improve. We need to improve so that the productivity from our labor forces will be shown and reflect in our economy. Honestly, if you ask me, the tussle between them should have been put to rest a long time ago, because we have the money, and I think the president knows that we have the money. If you look at what is being looted across board before the president recovered them and what we have on ground now, if it is not enough to address the issue of minimum wage, I don't think the president will just come out and give that kind of directive. So, ordinarily, if you ask me, we need improvement more than just minimum wage. We need housing, like we said. The labor force need housing, low housing scheme.
Because these are incentives that, in fact, encourage the worker.
Yes, apart from being worker, encourages the citizen. We're talking about taking people from the quagmire of poverty Just like today is World Poverty Eradication
Day.
You understand? So what are the parameters, are the indices that the Nigerian government wants to show to the international community of which they are member? Of course, we are member nation of the United Nations. What parameter or indices are we going to prove or showcase to the international community that yes, we are, our citizens and our labor force are well to do and we are productive?
And they're also signatory to the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah, the SDG, they are signatory.
It is eradicating poverty tops the agenda.
It tops the agenda, and this is where I said, one of the analysts 3 days ago on one of my programs, Alozie Emmanuel, he mentioned that government is next to God. And he said, after God, that is God's miraculous way of doing things and a wonderful way of doing things, the next authority is government. And the government can change anything whatsoever even within 24 hours. If the government so wish that each populace, each labor force should be paid minimum wage, each labor force should be given minimum wage of 30,000 and a housing, and even a medical doctor attached to him, the government can do it. Don't forget that apart from oil, which is our 98% GDI, the source of GDI, we have other natural resources untapped that we have not looked into in this country. And addressing a population of 200 million, it is high time we put a stop to a caricature of issues of minimum wage of that meager amount.
Thank you very much. Uchechi, going by the enormous resources at the disposal of this country, do you think this issue of minimum wage should still be lingering till now?
Well, as a matter of fact, I am not in any way against the minimum wage, but to me, there are other important things to talk about. They have approved the minimum wage, but what is still lingering is the implementation of the minimum wage. There should be an equilibrium between the input of a worker and the income. There's no two ways about it. But then, have you talked about people who have nothing doing? We have lots of graduates. How many thousands of Nigerians come out of the university in a year? You're not even talking about these people, and you're insisting on minimum wage. You want to
for the lesser people you have.
Yes, and if you go to offices, they don't even do anything. Like I said, I don't have.
That is why I said the unproductiveness of the Nigerian labor force is also a factor.
Yeah.
Because you may not be productive if you are at leisure in your offices. You understand?
No, but that shouldn't stop the payment of the minimum.
No,
it shouldn't
government
stop.
Or the head of that ministry.
I balanced it up that as a citizen, it is also your right to be employed. And it is the government that should give you a trajectory of where you are headed.
Yes, for the government to provide employment for its citizens.
For these citizens.
There are other people out there who also need employment. And you're not even talking about it. You should be going on a strike for people who are unemployed. The graduates who are unemployed, the labor force should embark on a strike on their behalf. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, there is nothing wrong with seeking for a 30,000 for unemployed citizens, for unemployed graduates.
I think what she's saying
about unemployed
that we should protest. That is, the civil society in Nigeria ought to, before now, be reacting against unemployment.
Definitely.
Just the way they do for their godfather politicians when they protest certain anomalies or injustices.
Of course, because unemployment creates so many social vices.
So you're not making those. You're not
the banditry we see. There's so many other vices we see.
Of course,
it's always linked to unemployment.
Yes, even the Minister of Labor, who is in charge of labor force and employment in the country, Mr. Chris Ngige, you heard him 2 days ago, and he said that over 50 million Nigerian youths are unemployed. But from the MBS, the statistics we have is 2.3 million, 20.3 million. That is 2.3% of the Nigerian populace, the youth that are currently unemployed. And if you listen to the former President Obasanjo's statement, though he too contributed to this quagmire, he said, if we do not address the issue of unemployment of our youth, very, very soon that Nigeria is already sitting on a keg of gunpowder. And he generalized it to the African continent as a whole. Because in this continent, we don't value our youth. While other first world countries and even Arab world, second world countries are projecting into the future, 20 years into the future, 30 years into the future, we are still behind looking for old men to take political offices. We are still behind looking for old civil servants to take some political cadres or administrative cadres to begin to give us analogous, implementations. But
some will also tell you that these aged people, so to say, you are mentioning, don't want to let go of power to the youth.
If they don't want to let go of power to the youth,
because they have the resources to still suppress the youth.
No, it is a mental and thinking faculty of the old and aged ones. Because if you look at what people like Kwankwaso are doing now, people like who do I mention again in the country, projecting into the future, sponsoring youth, and then giving youth enabling environment to be politically fit for governance, not for politics, mind you. And we have seen a lot of people doing it in this country, a lot of old school political leaders who are already breeding the young ones for future political offices. Because if you truly want to project a better future for the country, it means your youth in all facets, in all the ministries, in the aspect of governance, in politics, even in the religious cadre, in traditional whatever,
all strata
must be put to taking over. That has not been done in Africa. And this is where we are supposed to be looking into. So, because if President Muhammad Buhari leaves office at this age, who is supposed to take over? We are supposed to be projecting the future by now. And the future now is digital. Very, very digital. Even the present. So we don't need a situation where unemployment will be a problem because of statistics. You understand? And because of policies that have not been projected or proactively put in place. If policies that would address unemployment were put in place before now, like every street in the local government or every ward in the local government should have where unemployed youth should take 1 square meal. At the end of every month, the local government should have their data where they have their account numbers and being paid stipends. Yes, if only the Ziani can take over 400 and something million in pounds and in dollars, like we are hearing, Dasuki and the rest shared all this money, it means Nigeria is richer than the world and we can actually take care of the future. 100 years. Yesterday, you heard the disturbing news that came out from the IMF that in the next 200 years, Nigeria will not reach half of the living standard of the people in the United States of America. That should tell you something. And that should trouble you. It should give you a disturbing mental state of thinking how to take over governance in this country. Because I believe that the youth have the potency enough to lead in this country than what we used to be.
But still on the minimum wage, I think states like Kaduna State is to be commended because the government actually they've enforced the implementation of the 30,000 naira minimum wage.
And apart from El-Rufai, I think the governor, the present chairman of the Governors Forum, from Ekiti
From
State.
Ekiti State, yes.
What's the name of the governor?
Kayode
Fayemi said he is going to start by the end of this. I think he has started by the end of September. He said he has started. Yes, these are governors with vision. Governors with vision. When you elect a governor with vision, the state will be at rest. Apart from that, El-Rufai have shown some capacity and tenacity in leadership. If you look at what he did, apart from the minimum wage, he has gone far, sanitizing the state. And we are watching from behind. We know the governors who are working, and we definitely know the governors who are not working. It is there in our monthly tabloid, the Nigerian. If people can get the Nigerian, they will know the governors who are
actually spotlight.
Yes, the disastrous governors that we have in the state, in the country,
and
the effective ones, the performers. Because we cannot but analyze these issues. A state is under a governor.
It is the duty
of the media to set agenda and to ensure that the agendas are kept. So Mr. President should go back to talk to the Labour and the Minister of Labour and Employment to do something in settling the minimum wage once and for all, because we are not talking about other incentives for the labor force yet.
Okay, so we move on to our next story. Now, the National Identity Management Commission have said Nigerians who want to acquire the national identity card are to pay 5,000 naira. The 5,000 naira actually is for those category of people who have not gotten the national ID card before. But while 3,000 naira is for those who want to renew. Do you think this is a welcome development?
Okay, I thought you were asking Uchechi.
I'll come to that. Let me start with you.
Well, the national identity renewal is this renewal. I think it is not first issuance. The first issuance is free of charge, is FOC. Just like the voter's card that you use. How about if we tag the price of 5,000 naira from the NIMSI, according to Abdulaziz, what is that his name? Aziz Abdullahi. That is the Director General of the NIMSI. I think that will still be looked into, because the reaction that is coming out from the masses will tell where that policy will be driven to or not. Because if I choose not to renew my citizenship, though there might be factors emanating from that, for me not holding that identity card as a citizen, but you can still press the computer, like I was talking about, digital future. Press the computer to see whether my 11-digit code that made me a citizen of this country, that is the number given to me by the FG, that yes, Daniel, you are a citizen of this country, is there in your system. So without me carrying the card, I should be certified to do whatever. Probably poverty have, alienated me from getting a renewal for my card. And that angle should be looked into by the Director General. Because when you say 5,000 and we are living below $1, that is below 600 naira.
Exactly, that's the question
I
want to throw to her. Now, Uchechi, considering the level of income of some Nigerians and the poverty rate in this country, do you think the amount by NIM, by the Commission, do you think Nigerians who want to acquire it will be able to pay?
Well, actually, I don't have anything against the Nigerians paying to get their identity card or to renew it, but I'm against the price. The price, due to the fact that a lot of people may not be able to afford it. Why I said is a welcome idea is because, a lot of people have applied for identity card for years. Like some people applied 2012, 2013 till date, they've not gotten their ID card. So if they can say pay and get your ID card, and let's say you pay today and the next week you get your ID card. Seriously, is it not better than you applying for your ID card and then getting it after 10 years? Is it not better? Yes, I feel it's better if
actually,
they can.
it's not up to 10 years.
Yeah, because I know. When did I apply for my own
if
ID
you apply
card?
for a card such as identity card, you are supposed to have it immediately. But there is going to be a harmonized way and a digital way soon.
Yeah,
But
if that is the
the
case.
reports have been flying that national identity card is not produced in Nigeria.
It's not produced in Nigeria. Well, if it is not, have we been producing anything in the country before?
Perhaps that could be the reason why you have delay in the issuance of the card.
Probably the amount attached for renewal.
So this amount that is attached to the renewal or the first people that are coming for the first time, I think they should reduce it for the sake of
getting it for the first
Nigerians.
time is actually free.
Mm.
It's for
actually
those
free.
who
The government has sponsored that.
yes.
But
So it's just
then
for
how
renewal
long
and
is it
those
going to
who-
take?
I think
If it is
a
free, how
period
long
of
is it
5
going
years.
to?
Or is it a 5 years?
That's nonsense.
Or
If
25 years?
If you're
Well,
not going to pay,
I did mine in 2013 and I got it last year, 2018.
and I've not got
I
it.
have-
And it is to be expired next year.
I have my
So, I'm
slip.
trying-
I have not gotten the main plastic card.
That is it.
I have been there on several occasions, and I was always told that they are working on it from
That's
Abuja.
the
I'm
same
in
case.
Abuja now,
That's the
but
that's
I
the
did it
same
in my
case.
local government.
So what I'm trying to say is that let them attach money to both the first comer and the renewal. So so that
No.
they will be able to
Then you will
get
not have
it on
citizens
time.
you will not have citizens that will go and register for it.
Because I feel that it's better to get it on time than you applying it free of charge and then you get it after 5 years. It doesn't make sense to me.
But the government have paid that incentive for you. If the government have paid, it is now left for those people at the various offices to discharge their own responsibility. You understand? By disseminating the particular card. If I give you my details and you can't call me from the office of the NIMSI that my card is ready, then you are not performing your duty.
But trust me, if those who are coming for renewal are getting it like on time, everybody will claim to be coming for renewal since it is if it is the fastest way. Even me. I
But
will
the
claim
computer
to.
is there. Once the press, that is why I said digitalization. When I press the button, if you have been carried, don't forget that it's also biometric.
It's biometric. So
When
all
you
details-
just put your finger, it will show that you have done before and you have to come for renewal. So your renewal will be 3,000 naira or perhaps 5,000 naira. Can you afford that? That is the question Nigerians are asking, that people who are living below $1, that is below 600 naira,
Yeah, they should-
especially
they should
the
do something
unemployed
about
ones,
it. They should do
should come and
something
pay
about it.
3,000 or 5,000 renewal is impossible.
They should look into it.
Thank
Except
you.
they don't want everybody to have
Thank
the
you
ID
very
card.
much. The time will now allow us to continue talking.
Exactly.
So this is still Press Talk on Television Nigeria, a platform where we discuss topical issues making headlines in the Nigerian media. Mr. Tai, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Akpan.
And Uchechi Lemuwa, thank you for also
The
coming.
pleasure is mine.
So thank you very much. This is the size of our package today. You join us next time for another edition of Press Talk. I remain Samuel Akpan.